I am tired this morning. I like to be open and honest. Did I say this morning? Yeah. Well, that just shows you how tired I kind of feel right now. So I am tired. So there's a good chance that I will say something really ridiculous, which is really enjoyable for y'all, not so much for me, but we'll just go with that. So this evening we are starting a new series. In the next 3 weeks, we're gonna do a series called Think Different, in which we're gonna take a look at thinking different about people, the church, and the gospel. So we're going to take an opportunity to look into those things, to look at what maybe the world tries to tell us that how we should look at those things or think about them, and then how Jesus calls us to look at these things. So tonight we're going to look at people. And I got to teach for the younger crew earlier, which I don't do that a lot because I don't teach well for 7th and 8th graders, to be honest. But I was telling them about how, you guys know this, but that I like to share a lot of goofy stories about myself. And so I was sharing about how in the past 3 years I've learned a lot about myself because I've been married now for 3 years. And so a lot of times living with another person, you learn a lot about yourself. Because they point out things about you that you would never notice before. And so this evening I'm going to share something that I feel like is kind of embarrassing about myself. Which reminds me that I need This is embarrassing. That's my timer, so I don't get sidetracked, especially when I'm tired. I'm going to share something kind of embarrassing about myself. That I made the younger crew promise that they wouldn't tell anybody else. So if they tell y'all talk about it, then that means you're all breaking your promise. But apparently, I have what Carlisle calls a mirror face. That every time I look in the mirror, I make a certain face. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, I thought she made this up. But apparently it's a real thing. But she says, anytime I pass by a mirror, and she goes even as far to say, like, if I pass like a store window that kind of has my reflection, that like I turn and give it a certain look. And I'll get there. I never knew that this existed about myself because I don't watch myself, but apparently I guess in the mirror. But apparently I have this mirror face. And so what I was thinking about this lesson this week, I started thinking about this mirror face thing. And so I texted Carlisle, because that's how you communicate with one spouse, is through text message. I texted her and said, hey, will you text me just a quick line or two about my mirror face so that I can share it with my students? And so this is what Carlisle said about my mirror face. Said, Adam looks at himself in the mirror like there is an algebra equation written on his forehead. So apparently, like when I walk, by a store that there's glass there and I can see my reflection, I just kind of give it like a just real serious, like I'm pondering something, which I really appreciated. I thought she could have written way worse things, but I was like, that makes me sound like I'm really smart or something, that I'm always like really pondering something kind of difficult, like how could I solve this? And so I found it to be a compliment. I will not share the other 4 that she wrote because they were not as complimentary of myself. So I think that there's a truth to this mirror face thing, that the world calls us to kind of look at the world maybe with a mirror face. And so tonight, as we think different about people, I want to consider this idea of how much do we use our mirror face in this world that we're walking around in, this world that we're called to be disciples of Christ in. And so I want to do kind of a little example because I feel like a lot of times that we are walking around looking only at ourselves in the mirror. I want to kind of do an example. So y'all know is he in here? We have a new middle school minister, Derek. Is Derek in here? Yeah, there's Derek. So we have this new middle school minister. How many of you have met Derek? Yeah, some of you have met Derek. Derek is awesome. But Derek, this is your second Sunday? So Derek hasn't been around all that long. So a lot of you probably don't know much more about him other than this is Derek. So I want someone to help me with something. Jessica, will you come help me with something real quick? So, Jessica, how well would you say you know Derek?
Semi-well.
Oh, dang it. Semi-well. I'm going to give you this. Follow your heart. So what I want you to do is I want you to just talk to Derek, get to know Derek a little bit, ask him a few questions about himself, okay?
Okay.
But so I want you to take this too.
Oh, whoa. Am I to have to look at myself?
Yeah, just hold that for me real quick, and just hold that right there
Why?
as you talk to Derek.
I don't. Oh, this is so odd.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Derek.
What's up?
How you doing? Oh, you hate this so
Not
much.
too bad.
Hey, Derek.
weird.
What's your favorite color?
My favorite color?
Yeah.
Green.
Oh, imagine that.
Ask him why his favorite color. Ask him why his favorite color is
Yeah,
green.
right.
Why is your favorite color green?
I don't know. I mean, isn't green pretty?
Yeah. Adam, stop that.
I'm just looking.
Does it have anything to do with the fact that you're from Ireland?
It's got everything to do with
Oh.
I'm from Ireland. We
Oh,
are called
yeah.
the Emerald Isle.
Right.
All right. So let's stop real quick.
I hated that.
I hated that. Good.
What's wrong?
You kept like looking over my shoulders and would be like,
Yeah, it was a little creepy. I was creeping in the back. But Derek, how connected did you feel to Jessica just then?
Not one bit.
Not one bit at all. And Jessica, how did you look in the mirror as you were talking to Derek?
like I had an algebra equation on my forehead.
Like, touche. Touche.
I don't.
How connected did you feel to Derek as you were staring at yourself in the mirror? How distracting was that?
Very distracting.
Yeah. So now just ask Derek a question and talk to him and see how that feels.
Okay. Hey, Derek, what's your favorite animal?
My favorite animal?
You're kind of like blocking. Thank you. All right. Yeah, your favorite animal.
My favorite animal?
Believe it or not, the middle schoolers were less dramatic about this.
So
You're
distracting.
interrupting him.
You
Yeah.
get in the way. My favorite animal is a camel.
Why?
Why? There was this one time that I was in Lanzarote. Lanzarote is like an island off Spain, and we were there playing soccer, and we got to take the day off, and we got, this is a random story, that's why I like camels, and this guy was like, hey, would you like to come on my camel? I was like, sure. And he's like, random fact about my camel is the camel smoked cigarettes. It was weird, like, he put up a cigarette to this camel, and this camel started smoking cigarettes as we were like, on this camel.
Wait,
So there was two hazards, riding on the camel, which is fairly dangerous, and the secondhand smoke.
But this guy, no, anyway, camels is my favorite. I don't know why.
okay.
Not to do with that story, no, camels
All
are my
right.
favorite.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting.
Right.
All right, good experiment. Go sit down.
That was weird.
That took a hard left with camels. Camels are awesome, but I don't know what to do with any of that now. So if we're thinking different about people, and like Jessica and Derek just displayed, I think the world kind of calls us to this place where we walk with a mirror like this, and I'm constantly solving an algebra equation on my forehead. That we have this mirror in front of us that all we're really thinking about is how is this conversation I'm about to have reflecting me? How is this about me in some way? Or this thing that I'm about to go do, how is this helping me or serving me in some way? And so I think we're holding this mirror in front of ourselves, but truly if we're going to think different about people, we're called to actually move the mirror and see them, right? So we're called to get that out of the way, to actually see people. But I think that there's a step further than just getting the mirror out of the way and actually seeing people, but taking it a step further than that. And so there's this really cool passage that's been stuck in my mind right now from Ephesians 3, in which Paul is speaking to the people at Ephesus, and as he addresses them, the kind of the backstory to this is Paul has never actually written to them before, which is weird because he said, you've heard, of course, but he's referring to the fact that he's written letters to many congregations, and those congregations have been and visited with these people. So they've heard of some of Paul's words before. But he goes into this story, and he starts it by saying, you've heard, of course, about the responsibility to distribute God's grace, which God gave to me for you. The responsibility. Responsibility is this kind of big word, right? Like responsibility, that kind of like believe me, like when I do youth ministry or when I do this, and a parent's like, I'm overly aware of this kid is my responsibility right now. That's why, me just being honest, that's why yesterday was one of the most difficult days I've had in months. It's because a child that was my responsibility got hurt. And I take that seriously. So we all have responsibility in this world. It's this big, big word. And Paul here is saying, I have this responsibility to distribute God's grace to you. And I'm giving that to you as well. You also have that responsibility. So Paul's saying it's more than just seeing the people. No, you have the responsibility to not just see them, but to distribute the grace of God, which I am showing you. And here's what's even cooler, is if you read some of the commentary on this passage, and you look at some of the Greek words, other translations change the word responsibility to commission. My commission, which to commission someone is to like send them out. To send them out into work. So he says, my commission or my responsibility. But the Greek word that he uses for commission there is the same word that he uses earlier on talking to the people at Ephesus, in which it is the plan for salvation. So he uses the word commission, responsibility, and plan for salvation, all with the same word. So he is saying, my responsibility is part of God's plan for salvation of the world. Which, people, that is huge. That is huge. And we, Paul is saying, we are to take on that responsibility as well. We're to get the mirror out from in front of our face, be able to see people, but go beyond just see them, embrace the responsibility of sharing God's grace with them. And I think that looks like a lot of different things in this world. In middle school, I gave a lot of the cliche answers of it's going and talking to the kid at the lunch table that's sitting by themselves. I think that works in high school too. It's going and spending a Saturday afternoon praying with people as you give them groceries, extending grace to them. It's treating them just like normal people, like you were passing in a grocery store. It is living out Christ's grace as we have received to other people. So I want to impress upon you this responsibility that we are to go from, oh, dang it, I always forget that I have a slide for things. I get so into what I'm actually talking about, I forget that I tried to do it with that really high-tech slide. So we go from this think like everyone else is the mirror in front of your face. Focus on yourself only. Or think different. See others and show them grace. Remember the responsibility that we've been given, the commission that we've been given to act and be a part of the plan for salvation. So I'm going to pray for you guys as we lead into that. And Thomas and the band are going to come up and lead us in some worship. And as we sing and as we worship, I invite you to kind of spend some time in reflection and prayer. For you, if that looks like standing up and singing together, that's great. If it looks like kneeling here or where you are or sitting where you are and praying, I invite you to pray. Reflect on how God is calling you to get the mirror out from in front of your face. Actually see people and ask yourself the question and ask God the question, am I actually accepting the responsibility of helping share God's grace with everyone that I come in contact with? Let's pray. Gracious